Hello everyone and welcome to SUNUP. I'm Lyndall Stout. Cases of a mysterious respiratory illness that affects dogs are popping up in the Pacific Northwest, and there are now concerns that that illness could spread. SUNUP's Curtis Hare has this story.
We're here with Jennifer Rudd, an OSU veterinarian, and there's a new pathogen going around that's affecting dogs. So tell us a little about what's going on.
Yeah, so it's actually less about whether it's a new pathogen and more that we're seeing this increase in cases of what we just consider canine respiratory disease. And canine respiratory disease is more often than not more than one thing. So there's going to be viruses in there, there's going to be bacteria in there, and sometimes it can be a little bit complex on what those are. But what we're seeing right now is at least a reporting of an increased number of cases versus what we're used to seeing. And so then the question becomes, well, is it something brand new that we haven't seen before? Or is it simply just an increase in the cases we're used to seeing that are flaring up in different areas through the U.S.? And so that's part of what we're working on and trying to figure out and how we're going to handle that.
You said different parts of the U.S., so where is this occurring?
Yeah, so most of the media reports at least are coming out of the Pacific Northwest right now, and so in the areas around Washington and Oregon. I will say though that when we look at the actual numbers in those areas, we're not necessarily seeing an alarming increase beyond what we've seen in the last couple years in respiratory cases in dogs in those areas. It just seems to be that there's some severity in there that may be a little bit new, and maybe just enough that veterinarians in the area are starting to get a little bit more aware of things they should be watching for to respond to a little bit faster.
So what type of severity are we seeing?
Yeah, so the chances of this particular outbreak we're seeing right now, the chances of a severe outcome are still really, really low. And I think that's important to note because it tends to be that the stories we hear, right, are going to be the ones that go really badly. And the reality is the vast majority of these cases are going to be very mild and what we call self-limiting, which means that even without intensive care, they're going to get over it anyway. Similar to what we see in our kids when they hit those winter months, right? And we see those outbreaks and things like flu and the cold, and we don't necessarily expect them to be in a hospital because of that. Most of them are going to be fine regardless. But we do have a subset of dogs that seem to be having a more severe outcome, a really fast, rapid decline associated with a pneumonia, which is movement of that infection into the lower respiratory tract, into the lungs themselves. And those are the things that we really need to be cautious about because those are the types of disease presentations we do need to act quickly and get them more aggressive supportive care in order to improve that outcome for them.
And I think it's probably really important just generally speaking as, animal owner, like pet owners, that your pets get sick. And I think that's something that a lot of people maybe forget about that. We're concerned about us, but pets get sick too.
And we have to remember we're coming off the heels, right, of a global pandemic. And
that affected pets as well.
Exactly. And so even with the background that we have with COVID, I think we have to be really cautious of being overly reactive too. And so I would say even with your pets, think of it as you would your kids to a little extent, right? For those of us that have kids, it really is similar to that, where if you look at that dog and they're eating well and they're happy and maybe they just have a little bit of cough, call your veterinarian, talk to him over the phone, but you probably don't need to worry about bringing that dog in right away. You can get some things to watch for at home to make sure it's doing okay, and it probably doesn't even need a whole lot of intervention or therapy to get through that, just like we would with our kids that pick up those seasonal viruses at home. It's just we need to be a little more vigilant and aware about what are those indications, those signs that may say we should go ahead and get this dog seen sooner to ensure that we can get them the treatment they need so that they're going to be okay.
Or taking them to the dog park and exposing,
so
pathogens
that's
to
another
other
really big thing. And I would say too that that's not something that's necessarily new to this year either. As we move into these winter months, into these winter season, we see increases in these respiratory cases. And anytime you're going to take your dog into a situation where you don't have control over those other animals that are coming into contact, you don't know their vaccine history, you don't know if they're cared for, if they have clinical signs of disease, those are the types of settings we really need to avoid right now.
I guess just with everything, just be mindful and not worry, really.
Exactly. There is absolutely no need to panic or be overly anxious. We just have to be aware. That's all it is. Knowledge is power, right?
Yeah.
And so the more we know and we're aware of these types of things, we know what to watch for, the kinds of signs that may say, hey, we need to get some earlier care here.
Yeah.
We need to go ahead. And then the other big thing is when in doubt, just call your veterinarian.
Alrighty, thanks, Jennifer. Jennifer Rudd, OSU veterinarian. And if you'd like some more information about this pathogen, just go to our website, sunup.okstate.edu.